When our children were very young, 2, 3 years old, when they saw money, they called it tzedakah. Sometimes when they were younger, it was daka, because it was a hard word to say. They called daka. Then became tzedakah. They only knew one thing about money, that it was to be taken and putting into these boxes of, helping the poor. And that they would sing songs about it in preschool, about money is for tzedakah. And that's what they knew. Then they grew up a little and they knew, oh, money, can buy a candy with it at the corner store. Then they grew older. Oh, I could get a brand new bicycle. And then it became a car and so on. But it never left what the original sensibility about money, as money is tzedakah. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue in the 12th letter about tzedakah, about charity, about giving. And in that giving, that allows us in our prayers, in our Torah studies we're doing now, to have the infinite light of God, that it should be illuminating our neshama, our soul. And by the giving to those who are in need, God gives to us because we're all in need. We're in need totally in front of Him. In front of Him. Before Him, there's nothing but Him. We have nothing. Nothing is ours. It's all His. So by taking care of others, God takes care and illuminates our soul as a result. And here, taking care doesn't mean, meaning in a spiritual sense. It also means in a physical sense. We spoke about that previously, a previous letter, that concept. Here we're talking in a spiritual sense, illuminating the soul. Right. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that the act of giving for the Jewish soul, speaking about the Jewish soul, that's the focus here. And Jews, by their very nature, act compassionately and perform deeds of loving kindness. Why? It's because their soul is rooted in the divine attributes of God. And therefore, just like on high, chesed, kindness, divine kindness, prevails over gvura, judgment, and contracting, holding back. That's why, metaphorically, right, chesed is the right hand. The right hand is stronger for, most of the population that are righties. And then your right hand is your left hand, right? And you do your loving kindness with your right hand. So therefore, when you give charity, actually, we do it with the right hand. Specifically, the left hand is weaker, meaning that chesed prevails over refrain, holding back, judgment. And that's the nature of our soul that is rooted in the divine. And therefore, someone who is attuned to their soul, they have, means the presence of God, they have, which means the fear of God, then you will act in this way, that your kindness will prevail over your judgment. And with this, we can understand that the Jewish soul is called Bas Kohen, the daughter of the Kohen, of the priest. because the kohen is the embodiment of kindness down here. And that's why they bless the Jewish people, because their soul derives from the divine attribute of kindness and compassion. And that's therefore, they specifically have that quality, but this is a quality of every Jewish soul, and that's why the Jewish soul is called Bas, a daughter of the Kohen. Kohen is the embodiment of it, and daughter means a recipient, just as the daughter is recipient of her from her father, right? And she gets, right? The daughter doesn't have of her own. She lives in her father's home. Her father provides for the family. So the metaphor over here is our Father above, God, provides for the daughter, which is the soul, the Jewish soul, with the quality that he has of kindness and compassion. Right. Now, when you give charity in this manner, because it's the nature of the soul, right, to give based on what we just said, this is called the act of charity. Maise hatzedakah. The term maise, act, it's sort of like the act that's already been done. In the sense, because it's done in the soul already. The soul is made up that way. Or it's constantly being spontaneously done.
Give beyond our means.
Let's just stay focused on what we're learning, and we'll get to, okay?
Later.
In other words, when you act in a charitable way, it's because it's something that's a part of the makeup of the soul, being again that the God's attributes are a part of the soul that were breathed and blown into the soul. So we have the divine attributes of God that God blew into the soul and gave life, right? As opposed to that he talked the rest of creation into being. Here God blew into the nostrils a soul of life. That's what God does into our soul every day. And therefore it becomes, just as it's literally the innermost being of God that he gives to us, which is his divine attributes of kindness that prevails over judgment. And therefore there's compassion. So the soul, since it emanates from there, when you do an act of kindness based on that, so it's something that comes, so to speak, automatic, because God is renewing creation at all times. So therefore he's renewing that breath within me, giving me the opportunity that I could now be charitable. How am I charitable? Why am I charitable? Because it's the nature of the soul that's been breathed into me constant, and that breath is constantly being breathed into me to give me that quality. However, we had another way to being charitable, that's called avodas tzedakah, the service of tzedakah, which means that it's not natural, right? It's rising above. It's not doing what is instinctual. The first form of charity is instinctual to the soul, right? Like my kids, when they were young, 2 and 3, when they would see money, they would call it tzedakah and want to take it and put it into the pushka. Did they work hard for it? Did they struggle, to give that charity? No. It wasn't their money anyways, right? Well, they know for money. They know that it's just tzedakah. For them, it's just giving to the needy. That's all they understood it to be. So they gave. intuitively, naturally. It's part of the soul. Yes, it was part of the upbringing, but guess what? Chicken or the egg, what came first? Well, nature comes first, and then you can nurture that nature. The nature is there, and it was nurtured. However, to give in a way that's not just an act that you're sort of acted upon, you're just following your natural instinct, which that itself is amazing that we'd be attuned to that. Because, of course, we can corrupt our natural nature and be very selfish and not giving. But when you give, not because it's your nature, but because it's the supreme will of God that you want to fulfill. So just like in prayer, you exhaust yourself in order to connect to God. Or in Torah studies we're doing now, you're so focused that you exhaust yourself, right? You exhaust yourself in the focus. You're going beyond your natural tendency. That is a different kind of giving. So you would give a lot more than we'd be prompted by your natural instinct. And as the verse says, "Nosan titena," give, you shall give, meaning even 100 times. Not which is comfortable, but beyond that which is comfortable.
Sorry, missed that.
Give, you shall give, even 100 times. In other words, beyond your comfort zone. I'm comfortable to give this amount, and I'll give it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. But to go above and beyond, right? Above and beyond. So that's the Ma'isa Tzedakah. I know. Everything in its time.
I'll be more patient.
Tomorrow we will conclude this letter to get a full understanding of how it fits into the verse that we had at the very beginning of this letter. If you recall, that we had at the beginning of this a verse from Isaiah, that the reward of the act of charity is peace, and the reward of the service of tzedakah, which we just spoke about now, is quietness and surety forever. More to come. Stay tuned. Any questions? Now, do you have a question? Amram, a question. Menachem Hillel, Pesach, anybody question?
Because above and beyond its service, and
It's-
below that
It's natural, exactly.
Shouldn't feel bad about giving more than, oh, I gave too much in hindsight.
Right, exactly. Should almost never say the statement, "I gave too much." Now, if you gave so much, then now that you have to go and ask for charity, so then that's a different story. Right? That's a different story.
That's why you're not allowed to give more than 20%.
Ah?
Isn't part of the limit, no. 20% of your net income is the limit.
Mhm.
In natural state of being, yes.
So they're saying even beyond the 20%.
Well, tomorrow's class. Yeah, this would be beyond that 20%.
Hmm.
All right.
Mhm.
Rambam is coming up. We have TRC this afternoon at 4 p.m.
Cool.
You want more information on that? Feel free to message me. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zuch and Kadesh, my child Canterbury. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing day. Come join us for Rambam.